Support for Greater Chattanooga is provided by EPB Fiber Optics.
Our nation mourns the loss of 4 of our nation's heroes, and another one lays in very serious condition here in a local hospital.
The day after the shooting, when the names started coming in, the second person they released information on was Carson Holmquist. And there was this one picture of his wife and his son, and they'd made a sign on poster board that said, "We've waited 244 days for this." The end of his deployment is coming home. And something about that picture, I guess, I've got a son about the same age as his son, and that picture just grabbed me. I hope someday that I can say this to Mrs. Holmquist, that he was the person who got me thinking, we need to remember these men. And so a lot of people have done it. I felt it was the right thing to do. It just felt like it was right. That's what I do. That's what I do. This is all volunteer-driven and donation-driven. I ran into the Behr paint rep, and he said, "Well, what are you up to?" And I told him the plan, and I didn't even finish the sentence, and he said, "We're providing the paint." That's awesome. He goes, "What else do you need?" And I'm like, "Primer? Done." It's been amazing. I haven't had to ask for anything. Everybody has either just immediately just given it or come to ask me, "Do you need anything? Can we help? Can we do?" It kind of goes back to the character, Chattanooga's character. I set up some kind of rules for myself when I did this. I'm not going to contact the families. I'm not going to ask for photos. I'm only working off photos that were released by the Marines and the Navy. When I set this up, I was calling, trying to get permission from the Marines. I want to make sure they were okay with it. And I was worried that, when you show a fallen Marine, if they turn this way, does it mean one thing? If they turn this way, if they're wearing a certain uniform. So I just want to make sure. I didn't want a military man to walk up and say, "Well, he shouldn't be wearing that. That means that," and basically the response to me was, "You're overthinking this." You give somebody 3 colors and they can make something look absolutely 3-dimensional. I think you can do that with a minimum of 3. You've got to get your base color down, your highlights and some shadows, and I think the viewer's brain does the rest. Is this part of the healing process for Chattanooga? I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but this is more, in my mind, this is a memorial. This is for the 5 of them. 10 years from now, I want people to roll down the street, and I want them to remember Holmquist, Smith, Sullivan, Wells, Wyatt.
Sergeant Carson Holmquist, he was my Motor T chief. He knew his stuff. He was proactive. He was a hard worker.
Carson was such a great dad, and even Wyatt being 3 years old, he still loves his daddy more than anything. And I think that all the memories he had with Carson means a lot to hold on to. So I'll change up the background. Randall Smith, the only picture of him, it looked like he was in a stadium, a covered dome stadium in really harsh fluorescent light. I put him on the deck of a ship. He's a sailor. He's in the Navy. He might have been on a ship. Although a fellow sailor of his came by when I was projecting and said, "I don't know if he ever went to sea."
He was on the USS Wasp for about 3.5 years or so. I mean, he loved what he did in the Navy, but his role was more of a husband and father. That's what he really got joy and took pride in, was being with his family.
Volunteer days, people come out to help paint, always exciting. And I love that people want to help. I'm grateful for the people who've come out and helped. I think a lot of people feel a lot of ownership in this because this happened in our city and they want to help. I'm really proud of the way that this community has handled this. And I've been even more proud that so many people have done so much to remember these 5 men and their families.
Well, they've had a huge outpour of support with donations to events, just the community as a whole with donations and stuff. It's helped a lot.
Chattanooga's been overwhelming. There's been so much support that sometimes it is overwhelming in the sense of that it's hard to say no to all the things that they've done.
It's like a family. It's like us and the city, or there's ties that, you know, because and they went through it with us. But the support's been incredible. It's a testament to the city, I think, to the people of the city. And had this happened anywhere else, I don't know that the support would have been the same. I think it's just, you know, they just kind of rallied around us, and it's been incredible.
The giving and the generosity from this community was just amazing. It made recovery for families, for Marines, for sailors, all of it that much quicker to know that we had the support back here in this community.
It's been a long year, and it's been a lot of tears and a lot of sleepless nights. But I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for the support that they've shown us and the love that they've shown us. They kind of adopted all of us, and they look at us as one of their own, and that means a lot.
Just from the very beginning, people coming to my door and sending cards. My daughter, her birthday was the week after, and she probably got 1,000 birthday cards from everybody. It's been uplifting, and it's beautiful how much they care.
Literally at this point, 50 rain days, or threats of rain where I just didn't want to chance it. I will have this finished by the anniversary. That is my goal. If it takes, being out here all night the night before, I will have it done for that. I think that day is a day for the families and a day to remember the people who died. If this is a part of that, that's awesome.
Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Sullivan. He and I served together previously in Iraq. If I could describe Thomas Sullivan, I would say he had a heart of gold. I mean, he would go out of his way to help people. And if he saw you down, he would do everything he could to lift you back up.
Each man, they each have one Purple Heart. Gunnery Sergeant Sullivan, this is his third, so I worked 2 more into the painting for him.
When those Purple Hearts were awarded, it just kind of closed the chapter a little bit for us. We knew that they died for their country. We knew that they had sacrificed, that they put themselves in harm's way for others.
Part of what they did is they earned that heart. As I've met the families, it's certainly been like a jolt of adrenaline to meet the families and have them say, we love this. The Purple Heart weekend was a big deal because I met 10 or 15 people from each of the Marine families.
Really beautiful.
Thank you. Big group of people came out, but she said, Jasmine will be here in just a second. She's feeding the baby. But so she had a daughter since that. And the whole reason I did this is because the idea of Wyatt never knowing his father, except for the couple years. Well, now she's got a baby who's never met her father.
It's heartbreaking that she'll never know him, but just seeing all this stuff will let her know how much of a hero he was and how important he was to not only me, but to a lot of people. And same with Wyatt, because he's so young, he doesn't quite realize, he just thinks that Daddy's at work and on deployment again. So, yeah, as soon as they get older, I can't wait to show them everything. So I want them to feel like they know their dad.
People like to take photographs of the murals, and they share them. And every time it comes back to me, it makes me very happy to think that I've created something that people think enough about to photograph it, to share it. I hope that they take pictures in front of this and they share it, and it ends up circling back, and Wyatt gets to see it. His father
was a man who people thought enough of to take pictures and post it and circulate it. Skip Wells, he was one of the first portrait subjects. Just picture him in full battle rattle, and he looking tough, and I figured he was young and he was new to the Marines and he'd be all gung-ho.
Every time I would see him, he would have about 10 questions for me. So I started kind of jokingly calling him the Inquisitor.
One of the other family members came out and she looked at it, she said, you know, I like this because he was new, but it was kind of like he was still in the wrapper. He still had the newness on him. She said, that's kind of neat. I hadn't thought about that. I think that is true.
The only regret that he had was that he didn't go active duty Marine Corps, and his passion was definitely for the Marine Corps. He loved what he did.
Yeah, he asked from the very beginning, we came out when he was doing HomeQuest, and he asked if we'd want to help with David's. And of course, absolutely.
I wanted to try and do something where the kids could actually paint and be able to recognize what they painted. So I thought we would just put handprints.
Yeah, putting a little mark on it. Forever they'll remember, this was my hand. I was part of my father at this moment. You know, they'll be like 50 years old and be like, when I was 8 and 10, I got to do this. I think it'll be very memorable for them, and they're super happy right now, and I love seeing that. He was hardworking, an amazing father, amazing husband. He was a huge jokester. He loved laughing, and he wanted everybody to laugh, and he wanted people to have a good time, and he wanted people to do the right things always. He was David. He was sorry. He was someone that was always there for you no matter what. And always has been.
It's been a long project. You know, this is big. It's literally and figuratively the biggest thing I've ever done, I think. Talk about, you know, you're commemorating a warrior, and then sometimes like, oh, he was such a great dad, and he was a jokester. As I've learned more about them, it makes me feel good about having done this, because they seem to be, they're good men, and they're well thought of and highly revered. For me, as the more I've learned about them, the more I realize this was definitely something that was worthwhile doing. It's still final kind of brush strokes on a year's worth of work. Bittersweet, bittersweet.
If you look at the picture on the mural, you don't see solemn men. You don't see anything negative or anything. You see 5 men that serve their country, and you see 5 men painted in a light that honors what they did.
Knowing that whenever I come down here, I can still see him here, because it's so big and such a huge impact on our lives. But I'm not the only one who lost a hero, it's all of us.
It's a testament to the city of Chattanooga and how they've remembered and honored these 5.
These men made a choice. They could have left. That has to be admired. There are other good people at that Reserve Center and at the Recruitment Center who I'm sure did incredible things that day that would astound any of us mere mortals, are just as heroic as these men are. I hope they know they are, without needing a mural to tell them.
If you're a fan of Greater Chattanooga, support it. Becoming a sustaining member of WTCI is easy and affordable, and it makes a big difference. Visit greaterchattanooga.org/donate. Thanks.